Hey there, I'm Anita Sanders, a 28-year-old software engineer. Growing up, I was always the afterthought in my family. My older brother, Derek, he was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. I vividly remember my 10th birthday when my parents forgot to buy me a cake because they were too busy planning Derek's college send-off party. That pretty much sums up my childhood. Anita, honey, can you help set the table? My mom, Martha, would call out. Derek needs to focus on his football practice. I grumble but comply, watching as Derek lounged on the couch flipping through channels. That's my girl, Dad would say, not even looking up from his newspaper. As we grew older, the pattern continued. I worked my butt off through college, landed a great job at a tech firm, and started saving every penny. Meanwhile, Derek. Another divorce. I overheard Dad say one day, "Don't worry, we'll figure something out. You know we've always got your back." I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. That was marriage number 3 down the drain. My best friend and coworker, Lydia, was my saving grace through it all. "Girl, you need to set some boundaries with your family," she'd tell me over our lunch breaks. "They're taking advantage of you." I know, I'd sigh. But they're family, you know. Little did I know how prophetic Lydia's words would be. Last week, I got the promotion I've been gunning for. Junior Dev Team Lead, baby. I was on cloud 9, already dreaming about the cute little house I'd finally be able to afford. "Let's celebrate." Lydia squealed, hugging me tight. First round's on me. We hit our favorite bar after work, and I may have had one too many Martinis. Feeling bold, I decided to check my savings account, ready to see that down payment within reach. "What the?" I muttered, staring at my phone in disbelief. "What's wrong?" Lydia asked, leaning over. I showed her my screen, my hands shaking. It's empty. All of it, gone." "That's impossible," Lydia said, grabbing my phone. "Did you get hacked?" But deep down, I knew this had my family's fingerprints all over it. The golden child had struck again, and somehow I was left holding the bag. As I sit here nursing the mother of all hangovers and a broken heart, I can't help but wonder, how the hell did I let things get this far? And more importantly, what am I going to do about it? I stormed into my parents' house, my blood boiling. Mom and Dad were in the living room, looking way too calm for people who had just robbed their own daughter. "What the hell did you do to my savings account?" I demanded. Mom's face paled. "Anita, sweetie, let's talk about this calmly." "Calmly? You emptied my entire account." Dad stood up, trying to placate me. "Anita, you have to understand, your brother." "Of course it's about Derek. When is it not about Derek?" "He's going through a difficult time," Mom interjected. "Vanessa is threatening to go public with certain information." I laughed bitterly. "Let me guess, he cheated on her too." The silence was all the confirmation I needed. "We had to protect the family name," Dad said firmly. "You wouldn't want your brother's mistakes to affect your career, would you?" "My career? Are you kidding me? You stole my money." "We didn't steal anything," Mom snapped. "We're family. We help each other." "Help? You took everything I've saved for years. How did you even access my account?" Dad at least had the decency to look sheepish. "Remember when you helped us set up online banking? You gave us your information then." I felt sick. "I trusted you." "And we're asking you to trust us now," Mom pleaded. "Derek needs this. Once he's back on his feet." "No," I cut her off. "No more. I'm done being Derek's personal piggy bank. I want my money back. Every cent. Now." "Be reasonable," Dad started. But I was beyond reasoning. "Reasonable? You want reasonable? How about I go to the police and report this theft?" Mom gasped. "You wouldn't dare. We're your parents." "Parents don't steal from their children," I shot back. As we argued, I noticed movement in the hallway. My younger cousin Jake stood there, phone in hand, eyes wide. Was he recording this? Dad noticed too. "Jake, this is a private family matter. Go to your room." Jake scurried off, but not before giving me a significant look. I'd have to talk to him later. "I want my money back," I repeated, my voice shaking with anger. "Anita, please," Mom begged. "We'll figure something out. Just give us some time." Time? Like the time I spent working overtime, skipping vacations, pinching every penny. That time. The silence that followed was deafening. "I can't believe you did this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm moving out today." "Don't be dramatic. Dad scoffed. Dramatic? You haven't seen dramatic yet. I headed for the stairs. I'm packing my things and leaving. And if I don't see that money back in my account soon, the next conversation we have will be through lawyers. I could hear them calling after me, but I didn't care. As I threw clothes into a suitcase, my phone buzzed. It was Lydia. Hey, how'd it go? About as well as you'd expect. Can I crash at your place for a while? Of course. Want me to come help you pack? Please. And Lydia, thanks. As I hung up, I noticed a text from Jake. I got it all on video. Let me know if you need it. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could finally put an end to this family's toxic dynamics. And if Derek and my parents went down in flames, well, they lit the match themselves. Later, I sat at Lydia's kitchen table, surrounded by a mess of papers and laptops. Jake had just left after dropping off a USB drive filled with financial documents he'd swiped from Derek's home office. I can't believe how deep this rabbit hole goes, Lydia muttered, scrolling through spreadsheets. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. Tell me about it. How did I not see any of this before? Because you didn't want to, Lydia said gently. But now we've got the goods on your brother, and it's not pretty. I picked up a bank statement. Look at these withdrawals, they line up perfectly with the deposits into his personal account. He's been embezzling from his own company for years. Jake's voice crackled through the speakerphone. Guys, I just got off the phone with Grandma. She confirmed that Derek's been hitting her up for loans every few months. She thought she was helping him through tough times. More like helping him fund his midlife crisis, I growled. Designer clothes, fancy cars, 5-star hotels. Lydia whistled. And check out these tax returns. Either Derek has the world's worst accountant or he's been cooking the books. As we dug deeper, a pattern emerged. Derek wasn't just financially abusive. He'd left a trail of emotional wreckage through his marriages. I spoke with Vanessa, I said, scrolling through texts. She put me in touch with his other exes. The stories they told. It's like he has a playbook for manipulation. Lydia looked at me, concern etched on her face. Anita, this is big, like potential jail time big. Are you sure you want to go through with exposing all this? I hesitated. Despite everything, Derek was still my brother. And my parents? They'd enabled him, sure, but could I really be the one to bring them all down? Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. Lydia answered it, and in walked the most gorgeous man I'd ever seen. Carlos Mendoza, he said, extending his hand. I'm the lawyer your cousin Jake recommended. I shook his hand, suddenly very aware that I was in day-old sweats with unwashed hair. Anita Sanders. Thanks for coming. Carlos' eyes swept over the chaos on the table. Looks like you've been busy. Mind filling me in? For the next hour, we laid out everything we discovered. Carlos listened intently, occasionally asking sharp questions that made me realize just how serious this all was. So, he said finally, leaning back, what do you want to do with all this? I took a deep breath. I want my money back. But more than that, I want Derek to face consequences for once in his life. I'm just scared of what it'll do to my family. Carlos nodded. It's a tough situation, but remember, you're not the one who created this mess. You're just the one brave enough to clean it up. Something in his words, or maybe just the way he looked at me with those intense brown eyes, made me sit up straighter. You're right, I said. It's time Derek faced the music. Where do we start? As Carlos began outlining our strategy, I felt a mix of dread and excitement. This wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in my life, I was taking control. Oh, Lydia piped up. Don't forget to mention your promotion. We're not letting Derek's drama overshadow that. I smiled gratefully at her. Right. I've got a new job title to live up to. Lead developer won't conquer itself. Carlos grinned. A woman of many talents. I look forward to working with you, Anita. As we dove back into the documents, I couldn't help but feel a spark of something new. Maybe, just maybe, out of all this chaos, something good could grow. But first, it was time to tear down the house of lies my brother had built. I took a deep breath, my finger hovering over the send button. This email would set everything in motion. No going back now. You sure about this? Lydia asked, squeezing my shoulder. I nodded, clicking send. It's time. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Derek's company received an anonymous tip about his embezzlement. The IRS got a detailed report of his tax fraud. And thanks to Carlos' connections, Derek's exes found a sympathetic journalist to share their stories. The house of cards came tumbling down fast. I was in a meeting when my phone exploded with notifications. Derek Sanders, CFO of Technova, arrested on multiple charges. I excused myself, hands shaking as I called Carlos. "It's happening," he said. "You ready for the next step?" I steeled myself. "Let's do it." We met my parents at their lawyer's office. They looked shell-shocked. "How could you do this to your own brother?" Mom hissed. I slid Jake's recording across the table. "How could you steal from your own daughter?" Their faces paled as they listened to their own voices admitting to the theft. "You have two choices," Carlos said coolly. "Repay Anita in full or face charges yourselves." Dad's shoulders slumped in defeat. "We'll pay." The fallout was brutal. Derek was fired and faced years in prison. My parents became social pariahs when the story broke. But the hardest hit came from an unexpected source. "Anita, dear," my grandmother said over the phone. "I've revised my will. I hope you don't mind, but I've left everything to you." "Grandma, you don't have to." "I do," she interrupted firmly. "It's time this family had some honest leadership." Months passed. With my recovered savings and a hefty promotion, turns out exposing corporate fraud looks good on a resume. I bought my dream home, a cute Victorian with a wraparound porch. To new beginnings, Carlos toasted, clinking his champagne glass against mine as we stood in my new living room. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Speaking of new beginnings, the support group launches next week. Will you be there? "Wouldn't miss it," he said, his eyes twinkling. The support group for victims of familial financial abuse was my way of turning pain into purpose. If I could help even one person avoid what I went through, it would be worth it. Tonight was the company's annual gala. I smoothed down my dress, nervousness and excitement battling in my stomach. "You look amazing," Lydia gushed as we entered the ballroom. Jake whistled in agreement. I spotted Carlos by the bar, looking dashing in a tux. He handed me a glass of champagne just as our CEO clinked for attention. "I'd like to recognize Anita Sanders," he announced, not only for her exceptional work as lead developer, but for her courage in exposing corporate fraud and her dedication to helping others through her new foundation. The room erupted in applause as I stepped forward to say a few words. I caught sight of a TV in the corner. The ticker at the bottom read, * Derek Sanders sentenced to 15 years for embezzlement and tax evasion *. My phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen. Without hesitation, I silenced it and slipped it back into my clutch. Looking out at the crowd, Lydia beaming proudly, Jake giving me a thumbs up, Carlos watching me with admiration, I felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you all," I began. "It's been a challenging year, but standing here tonight, I can honestly say I wouldn't change a thing. Because sometimes you have to weather the storm to appreciate the rainbow." As applause filled the room, I caught Carlos' eye and smiled. The storm had passed, and my rainbow, it was just beginning. If you discovered a family member had been stealing from you and manipulating others for years, would you expose them publicly or handle it privately to protect the family's reputation? What do you think is the right thing to do in such a situation?